Number 5. The Spanish flu. At first it felt like a normal flu. A fever, a cough, a few days in bed. Then your lips turned blue, your skin a sickly grey, your lungs filled with blood. And before your family could fetch a doctor, if any were still alive, you were gone. And so was your brother, your mother, your neighbours, the mailman, the nurse. The Spanish flu didn't trickle through the world like other plagues. It exploded. In just over a year, it infected 1/3 of the global population and killed between 50 to 100 million people. This wasn't just a deadly flu, it was a biological nightmare that moved faster than armies and didn't care about borders, wealth, or health. And the worst part? It killed the strong. Unlike typical influenzas that prey on the very old or very young, the Spanish flu tore through young adults, 20 to 40 years old, with a fury no one understood. Entire regiments of soldiers were coughing up blood in the trenches. Nurses collapsed on the hospital floor mid-shift. People died within 24 hours of their first symptom. In Philadelphia, officials ignored warnings and held a parade. 2 days later, the hospitals were full. By the end of the week, they were stacking bodies in cold storage warehouses. Gravediggers couldn't keep up. Some families were forced to sleep beside corpses. Horses hauled dead bodies to makeshift cemeteries, and coffins were mass-produced like bullets in a war. Cities enforced mask mandates, closed schools, and banned gatherings. But it wasn't enough. The virus mutated. It returned in waves, each one worse than the last. No one was prepared, and no one truly understood what was happening. The terrifying irony? We still don't fully know where it came from. It wasn't Spanish. Spain just didn't censor its newspapers like the US, Britain, or France. This wasn't just the flu. It was a mass extinction event, camouflaged as something familiar. And that's what made it so terrifying. Number 4. Smallpox in the New World. You never saw it coming. You had never seen a white man before, never seen steel, horses, or cannons. But the most dangerous thing the strangers brought with them was invisible. It wasn't the sword that killed your people. It was smallpox. The disease hit the Americas like a ghost wind, sweeping through villages before the Europeans even arrived. Whole tribes died without a single shot fired. Corpses lay rotting in longhouses. Mothers held their dead children, covered in blackened blisters, until they too collapsed. There are stories, horrifying whispered ones, of survivors wandering through the jungle, begging the trees to kill them, of elders lighting fires around their own homes and burning everyone inside, to keep the disease from spreading further. In some places, 90% of the population was wiped out. Entire civilizations were extinguished. The Aztecs fell. The Inca were undone. Native communities from the Great Lakes to the Andes vanished. Not by war, but by pustules, fever, and rot. Smallpox was relentless. You'd wake up feeling fine. By noon you'd have a fever and chills. The next day, the lesions came, dozens, then hundreds. They filled your mouth, your throat, your eyes. You couldn't swallow, you couldn't speak, you screamed until the pustules burst. If you lived, and most didn't, you were blind, disfigured, scarred forever. For those who hadn't seen this kind of death, smallpox looked like a curse. And maybe it was. Some accounts claim infected blankets were intentionally given to indigenous people. A kind of early biological warfare. Whether true or not, the result was the same. Horror, silence, erasure. Whole cultures disappeared, all without a single battle. Number 3. The Dancing Plague. It started with one woman. She walked out into the middle of a street in Strasbourg and began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, just an eerie, desperate rhythm. Her body jerked, her arms swung, her feet thudded against the cobblestones. People laughed at first, but she didn't stop. Not that night, not the next day, not for 6 days. Within a week, dozens had joined her, then hundreds. They danced until their feet bled, until their bones fractured, until they collapsed from pure exhaustion, only to rise and continue. Some died of heart attacks, some from strokes, others simply dropped where they stood. Doctors were baffled. Was it fever? Demonic possession? A punishment from the heavens? The authorities, in their infinite wisdom, brought in musicians to help the dancers purge the madness. They built a stage thinking it would help. It didn't. The dancers just kept dying, in public, in front of crowds who clapped and prayed and wept. Women screamed. Children joined in. Priests warned of divine punishment. Physicians spoke of overheated blood and misaligned stars. What caused it? Some say ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic fungus on mouldy bread. Others blame mass hysteria, but nothing explains the persistence, the pain, the absolute terror that followed. Imagine not being able to stop your body. Imagine watching your loved ones dance themselves to death, screaming between steps, gasping for breath between movements they couldn't control. This wasn't a metaphor, it wasn't art. It was a plague of pure psychological possession. And it didn't just happen once. Similar outbreaks appeared throughout medieval Europe. In Aachen, in Metz, in Zurich. What were they dancing away from? Or toward? Number 2. The Plague of Justinian. There's a reason the ancient world never fully recovered. In the spring of 541, a ship arrived in Egypt carrying grain, and something far worse. Aboard were rats, and within those rats were fleas, and within those fleas, death. The plague of Justinian hit the Eastern Roman Empire like a black tide. In Constantinople, the jewel of the empire, 10,000 people were dying every day. Every single day. Streets filled with corpses. Priests gave up trying to bless them. Graves ran out. Pits were dug. Then the pits overflowed. Eventually, bodies were thrown into towers, into the sea, into empty houses, stacked like firewood. Justinian himself, the emperor, caught the plague and nearly died. The city was paralyzed, merchants fled, senators vanished, even the gravediggers gave up. And when the wind changed, you could smell the city dying. This plague spread like wildfire through trade routes, across the Mediterranean, into Asia, into Africa. It returned in waves, year after year, decade after decade. Historians estimate that up to 100 million people died across its many resurgences. This wasn't just a health crisis, it was a civilizational breakdown. Farms collapsed, soldiers deserted, religious leaders declared the end of days. And the most terrifying part, they might have been right. The Roman Empire never truly recovered. Its economy shattered, its cities emptied. The dream of Rome, the dream of empire. It died in the stench of plague-swollen bodies rotting in the summer sun. The Black Death would come centuries later, and it would be worse in scale. But this was the first great warning, and we didn't listen. Number 1. The Black Death. You wake up to silence. Your sister isn't breathing. Your father is missing. Your mother is kneeling beside the hearth, her face wet with tears, whispering to a God who no longer answers. You step outside. Every house on your street has been marked. A red X, some have their doors nailed shut. A cart rolls by. The driver doesn't stop. He's collecting corpses, not passengers. This was Europe in 1348. The Black Death didn't just kill, it unmade society. It arrived on ships from the east, carried by fleas on rats, and within weeks, entire towns went dark. Victims developed fevers, chills, and then the buboes. Swollen lymph nodes, black and hard as stone. In your groin, your armpits, your neck. They burst, you bled from your eyes, your nose, your skin. Some died screaming, others in silence, all of them quickly, usually within 3 days. It killed children first, then mothers, then priests. Entire villages disappeared, people abandoned their families. Parents threw their children into mass graves. Dogs fed on bodies in the streets. The smell was everywhere. No one knew what caused it. Was it the stars? A punishment from God? Poisoned wells? Desperate for answers, people turned on each other. Jews were burned alive in cities across Europe, accused of bringing the plague. Flagellants roamed from town to town, whipping themselves to earn divine mercy. Others drank and danced, convinced the world would end tomorrow. And maybe it had. Between 75 and 200 million people died, as much as 60% of Europe's population. Labour systems collapsed, cities emptied, faith crumbled. Children grew up never knowing grandparents, never seeing churches open, never hearing music. The psychological scar was deeper than any grave. Survivors weren't just lucky, they were forever changed, haunted, hardened, numb. The Black Death didn't just end lives, it ended an entire way of life.